I reached for the door frame to steady myself, and she slammed it hard. The pain shot up my arm, but what hurt worse was her voice. "Dad, this isn't your home anymore." Her husband just stood there, watching me like I was some stranger off the street. The click of the deadbolt echoed in the hallway. Before we continue, please like this video and subscribe to the channel to help us create more videos like this. Done that? Great. Back to the story. I stood there, leaning on my aluminum walker, my right hip screaming in protest from the sudden jolt. My hand, the one I'd used to catch my balance, was already throbbing, a deep, sickening pulse. I'm Harold Finch. I'm 68 years old. For 35 of those years, I was a mail carrier for the United States Postal Service. I'm a man of routine, of pensions, of simple, predictable things. And I was standing in the hallway of a 4-bedroom new build in a cookie-cutter suburb, a house that existed only because I'd drained my retirement account of $68,000 for the down payment. My daughter, Sarah, was on the other side of the door. My son-in-law, Mark, had just walked past me toward the kitchen, his face a mask of indifference. I shuffled back to the guest room, the one they'd given me for my 8-week recovery. The pain in my hand was sharp, but it was nothing compared to the cold, hollow cavern that had just opened in my chest. I sat on the edge of the twin bed, the one with the thin mattress and the floral comforter that smelled like their fabric softener. I looked at my hand. It was already swelling, turning a sickly shade of purple. How did we get here? 6 months ago, it was all smiles. "Dad, we found it," Sarah had cried over the phone. "The perfect house, room for grandkids, a yard. But the bank, we're just a little short on the 20%. A little short. $68,000. "It's just a loan, Harold," Mark had cut in, his voice smooth as new paint. "We'll pay you back, every cent, with interest. It's just to get us in the door." I was so proud. My daughter, a homeowner. I'd just retired. I had my pension, and I had the modest rental bungalow I'd inherited on the other side of town. I had enough. "Of course," I said. "Family helps family." Now, that word, family, felt like acid in my mouth.
The door to my guest room opened without a knock. It was Mark. He wasn't looking at me. He was holding a piece of paper. "Harold, look, this is awkward," he said, placing the paper on the nightstand next to my blood pressure medication. "We need this room. Sarah's going to use it for her home office." I looked at the paper. It was a 30-day notice to quit. You're evicting me?" My voice sounded thin, reedy. "Don't be dramatic, Dad," Sarah called from the hallway, her voice still sharp. "We're just giving you notice." "My hip," I started. "The doctor said 12 weeks." "You've been here 8, Harold," Mark said. He tried for a sympathetic tone, but it just sounded condescending. "You're walking mostly. I'm sure you can find a nice senior apartment somewhere. We'll even help you look. Just don't make this difficult. It's just a formality." A formality. They assumed I was just a doddery old man, weak, physically compromised, and living on a fixed income. They had the house, they had the youth, they had the power. They assumed I had nothing. But what had changed? Why now? My mind flashed back to last week. I was in the kitchen, making tea. I thought I was alone. My son David had called. "Davy, great news," I'd said, keeping my voice down. "I just talked to the lawyer. I'm transferring the deed to the bungalow over to you. The tenant is solid. It's an extra $900 a month for you and the kids. Just a little something from your old man." Silence. I turned. Sarah was standing in the pantry doorway, her face pale. She hadn't said anything. She just turned and walked away. That was it. This wasn't about a home office. This was about the bungalow. They thought that because I'd helped them, they were entitled to everything. The $68,000 wasn't enough. They wanted the rental too. And when they found out it was going to David, they decided I was no longer welcome. Mark left the room. I was alone. I looked at the notice to quit. Then I limped over to my old, worn leather satchel, the one I'd carried on my route for 35 years. Underneath my spare socks and the bottle of ibuprofen, there was a single, thick manila folder.
Sarah and Mark thought I was just a mailman. They thought my job was just walking and putting letters in boxes. They didn't understand the job. The job isn't just walking, it's documentation, it's routes, it's forms in triplicate, it's federal-level precision. You don't lose a certified letter. You don't forget a package. You account for every single piece. You document everything. It's a habit. It's a mindset. And I'd applied it to my entire life. I pulled the folder out. On top was a simple, one-page document I had typed up myself on my old Brother word processor. Loan agreement for personal residence. It detailed the wire transfer of $68,000. It detailed the payback as on demand. And it had one beautiful, meticulous clause. Clause 4B. In the event of non-payment within 30 days of a formal written demand, or in the event the primary lender, Harold Finch, is removed from the residence against his will while residing therein, this loan of $68,000 shall be considered null. The funds will immediately revert to a 20% equity stake in the property, granting Harold Finch primary lien holder status and right of occupancy. I had made them sign it at the bank, right before I authorized the transfer. "Dad, this is so formal," Sarah had whined, rolling her eyes. "It's not like we're going to kick you out, Harold," Mark had laughed, slapping me on the back. I flipped the page. Underneath was a copy of the cashier's check, a printout of the wire transfer confirmation, a screenshot of the text from Sarah. "Got the money. You're a lifesaver, Daddy. We can finally close." Another text from Mark 2 days later. "The house is ours, thanks to you. You'll always have a home with us, Harold." My hand throbbed from the door slam, but it was perfectly steady as I picked up my phone. I dialed my son. "Davy, I need a lawyer." "No, I'm fine." "Well, no, I'm not fine. I need Mr. Callan, the one who handled Mom's estate." The next morning, David arranged an Uber. I sat in Mr. Cowan's plush leather office, feeling small. My old windbreaker felt out of place against the dark mahogany and leather-bound books. I explained the situation. Cowan listened patiently, his face grave. "Harold, this is difficult," he said, tenting his fingers. "It's a family dispute, a he said, she said. They gave you a notice to quit. As a tenant at will, which is what you are without a lease, they have the right. That $68,000, they'll claim it was a gift. It's very, very hard to prove otherwise in court." He gave me a sympathetic look, the look I was getting used to. "You're a retired man on a fixed income," he continued. "They are young professionals. A judge will see this as a sad family squabble, not a legal case. Honestly, your best bet is to move out, let things cool down, and maybe sue them in small claims for the money. But you'll probably lose." This was it. The "I have no options" moment. He saw me exactly as they did, a weak, confused old man who had been outmaneuvered. I said nothing. I just bent down, slowly, because of my hip. I unbuckled my leather satchel. I placed the thick manila folder on his desk. "Please read that," I said. Cowan sighed like I was wasting his valuable time. He picked up the folder. He read the top page. His eyebrows shot up. He reread Clause 4B. His eyes went wide. He flipped to the next page, the notarized signatures. He looked at the bank transfers. He looked at the printouts of the text messages. He was silent for a full minute. He straightened his tie. He cleared his throat. "Mr. Finch," he said, and his entire tone had changed. It was no longer sympathetic. It was sharp. "This is not a gift. This is not a family spat. This is an ironclad contract, and they are in flagrant breach." He looked up, a small, grim smile on his face. "You were a mail carrier, you said." 35 years, I said. They should have known better. Federal employees are the most organized people on the planet. They never, ever lose the paperwork.
The plan was simple. The plan was beautiful. "We don't respond to their 30-day notice," Cowan explained. "We send them our notice. A certified letter," I love the irony, "making a formal demand for the full repayment of $68,000, due in 10 business days, as per the on-demand term in the contract." "They don't have it," I said. "They just bought a new SUV. I know they don't have it." "Exactly," Cowan said. "When they fail to pay, they are in breach, which triggers Clause 4A. You're no longer a tenant, Harold. You're a lien holder." "But what about my hand?" I asked, holding up the purple, swollen appendage. Cowan's smile vanished. "You're going to an urgent care clinic right now. We get x-rays, we get a medical report. That's not making you leave, that's physical assault. We'll use that to file for a temporary restraining order. They wanted to evict you? Fine. We'll evict them." I went back to the house. I was quiet. I went to the urgent care. The x-ray confirmed it. A hairline fracture in my fourth metacarpal. They fitted me with a splint. I got the report. I faxed it to Cowan. For 2 days, the house was eerily quiet. Sarah and Mark avoided me. They left passive-aggressive sticky notes on the fridge. "Dad, there's a lovely senior community center 2 miles away. You should check it out." "Dad, we're serious about the 30 days. Please start packing." I was in the kitchen, fumbling to open a water bottle with my one good hand, when Sarah came in. She saw the splint. She didn't flinch. She didn't apologize. "Oh, for goodness sake, Dad," she sighed. "Don't be so dramatic. I barely touched it." "You broke my hand, Sarah." She actually laughed, a short, sharp, ugly sound. "Right. And you're going to, what, tell on me? Who are they going to believe, me or the confused old man who thinks we owe him for a gift? You gave us that money. You were happy to. Now you're just being bitter because of David's bungalow. It's pathetic." I just looked at her, at the stranger wearing my daughter's face. "Just get out, Dad," she said, her voice dropping. "It's already ugly, Sarah," I said, and limped back to my room. The certified letter from Cowan and Associates arrived on Monday. I was in my room, reading, when the shouting started. "What is this?" Mark's voice, booming through the drywall. "He can't do this. Demand for repayment? Breach of contract?" I heard Sarah's voice, high and panicked. "It's that stupid paper, the one he made us sign at the bank. I told you it was weird." "It's a formality, Sarah. It's not real. He's bluffing," Mark roared. "He's a broke old man on Social Security. He can't afford a lawyer like Cowan. I'm going to put him in his place." My door flew open so hard it hit the wall. Mark was standing there, his face a mottled, angry red. He was waving the letter. "You think this is funny, Harold? You think you can sue us in our house?" "It's not your house until it's paid for," I said. My voice was quiet, but it didn't shake. You ungrateful old..." He took a step toward me, his fists clenched. "I wouldn't," I said. I held up my phone. The red record button was glowing. Mr. Cowan was very specific about verbal threats and intimidation. He said to document everything.
Mark froze. He wasn't looking at me, the weak old man. He was looking at the phone. He wasn't afraid of me. He was afraid of the documentation. The rage in his eyes flickered, replaced by a cold, calculating look. He finally understood. "Get out," he hissed. "Get out of our house, now." "No," I said. "According to Clause 4B, this is my house too. I own 20% of it, and you are in default." He and Sarah, who was now standing behind him, just stared. The doddery old man they'd planned to throw out on the street was gone. In his place was a federal employee who had his paperwork in order, and he wasn't leaving.
The next 10 days were a new kind of war. They didn't speak to me, but they made their presence known. The Wi-Fi router, which I needed, was accidentally unplugged every few hours. Loud, pounding music would start playing from their bedroom at 2 a.m. The hot water heater was suddenly broken, but only for my bathroom. They were trying to build a case for constructive eviction. They were trying to make my life hell. They didn't realize they were just building my case. I documented it all. I took a video of the unplugged router. I recorded the music, holding my phone up to show the time. I logged every single incident in a small notebook, just like I used to log certified mail. I sent it all to Cowan. Cowan filed the restraining order petition, citing the broken hand, the verbal threat Mark had made, and the pattern of harassment. We had a hearing in 72 hours. The morning of the hearing, my doorbell rang. I opened it, and my son David was standing there, holding a suitcase. "You didn't think I'd let you do this alone, did you, Pop?" he said, pulling me into a hug that carefully avoided my splint. When we walked into the courtroom, I wasn't alone, old man. I was Harold Finch, and I had my son on one side and my lawyer on the other. Sarah and Mark were already there with their lawyer, the young guy in a shark-skin suit who looked like he'd stepped out of a TV show. They were whispering and smiling, confident. They still thought this was a joke. They still saw me as pathetic. Their lawyer stood up. "Your Honor, we're here to ask for a dismissal. This is a complete waste of the court's time. It's a simple family spat. Mr. Finch is upset about an unrelated inheritance decision, so he's lashing out. He was a guest in my client's home, and they graciously gave him 30 days to leave. This restraining order is frivolous." The judge, a no-nonsense woman with tired eyes, looked at Cowan. "Mr. Cowan, frivolous."
Cowan stood. "Your Honor, this is not a family spat. This is a case of financial elder abuse, breach of contract, and physical assault." Sarah's lawyer scoffed. "Assault? That's a new and slanderous allegation." "Is it?" Cowan walked to the judge, handing her a file. Exhibit A, the medical report from Dr. Singh, detailing a hairline fracture in Mr. Finch's right hand, sustained on the morning of October 23rd. The same morning, his daughter, Ms. Miller, slammed a door on it to force him out of a room. Sarah's face went white. Mark's smug smile vanished. Their lawyer looked confused, like he was hearing this for the first time. Exhibit B, Cowan continued, the notarized loan agreement signed by both defendants stating the $68,000 was a loan, not a gift. Please note Clause 4B regarding right of occupancy. Exhibit C, the certified letter demanding repayment, which was met not with a payment plan, but with threats. Exhibit D, audio recordings of the defendant's attempts to constructively evict my client. Cowan played the audio. The courtroom filled with the sound of thump, thump, thump music at 2 a.m. Then Mark's voice, clear as day. Get out of our house, now!
The judge's face was stone. She looked over her glasses at Sarah and Mark.
Miss Miller? Mr. Miller, do you have a response to this?
Their lawyer was shuffling papers, his confidence gone.
Your Honor, the loan agreement was a formality, a family understanding. He gave them that money. A formality? The judge's voice was sharp. Counselor, I've been on this bench for 20 years. I know the difference between a family understanding and a notarized contract with specific breach clauses. What I see here is a contract, and what I see from your clients, she said, glaring at them, is a disgusting, calculated attempt to defraud a vulnerable adult, their own father.
The judge wasn't finished. You took $68,000 from this man, money from his retirement. You let him move in while he recovered from major surgery, and then you broke his hand and tried to throw him out on the street, all because he decided to give his other property to his other son? She shook her head, her disgust palpable. The entitlement is breathtaking. Sarah finally broke. She started to cry. Not the tears of remorse I'd once imagined. They were angry, frustrated tears. The tears of a child who'd been caught. He doesn't understand, she wailed, pointing at me. We need that house. We have a mortgage. We have bills. You have a mortgage, the judge snapped, that you only obtained because of the $68,000 this man loaned you, the man you just assaulted and tried to make homeless. Mark shot to his feet. This is ridiculous. He's lying. He's a bitter old man. Sit down, Mr. Miller, or I will have you removed for contempt. He sat. His face was the color of spoiled milk. He was finally seeing what was happening. The restraining order is granted, the judge said, her voice final. Ms. Miller and Mr. Miller are to stay 100 yards away from Harold Finch. Their lawyer stood. But, Your Honor, they all live in the same house. Not anymore they don't, the judge said. Mr. Finch's right of occupancy is affirmed by the contract you called a formality. That means he stays. Your clients will be vacating the residence. They have 48 hours to remove their personal belongings. A police escort will be provided to keep the peace. Sarah let out a sound, a howl. What? We can't! Where will we go? That is not this court's concern, the judge said coldly. Mr. Cowan, your lien on the property is granted, but for now, your client is safe in his home. The defendants are ordered out. We are adjourned. Mark just stared at me. The guy who watched me cry in the hallway was now watching his entire life implode. We didn't even go to a full civil suit. Their lawyer called Cowan that afternoon. They were ruined. They had no case. They were facing a lawsuit for the $68,000, plus damages for the assault and harassment. And they had just been publicly humiliated by a judge. Cowan, on my instruction, made them an offer. They could either let the bank foreclose, or they could sign the house over to me, a deed in lieu of foreclosure. I would take over the mortgage. They had no choice. David and I sat on the front porch with glasses of iced tea and watched the moving truck pull up. We watched them carry out their oversized sofa, their 70-inch television, their rain-scented wall plug-ins. Sarah came up the walkway, her face blotchy and swollen. So that's it, she spat. You're just kicking us out, your own daughter, after everything we did for you? Everything you... I started, but I stopped. I took a breath. No, I said calmly. I'm not kicking you out. I'm a landlord now, and I hate vacancies. She looked confused. What? You need a place to live. I have a house for rent. I reached into my leather satchel and pulled out a new document. A standard 1-year lease agreement. It's a lovely home.
$3,200 a month, which is market rate. Plus utilities. First and last month's rent, plus a security deposit, are due on signing, if you're interested. The realization hit her. The color drained from her face. They had nowhere to go. They had no money. They had just lost their house, and now, to stay in it, they would have to pay me. Mark came over, read the lease over her shoulder. His face was a mask of pure, unadulterated hatred. You bastard, he whispered. That's landlord to you, I said, holding out a pen. Sign or be out by 5. Your choice. They signed. The same door they slammed shut on my end was now the one I held the keys to.
It was a hard-won victory. For the first month, when that rent check for $3,200 cleared, my stomach would twist. This was my daughter. This was the house I'd helped her buy. But then I'd look at my hand. The fracture healed, but there's a small, dull ache on cold days. It's a reminder. I'd remember the click of the deadbolt. I'd remember her voice. This isn't your home anymore. She was right. It wasn't my home. It was my investment. And it was finally paying me back. But I didn't want to be their landlord. I didn't want to live near them. I didn't want anything to do with them. So, 2 months after they signed the lease, I sold the house. The market was hot. A nice family from California bought it. With the proceeds, I paid off the mortgage completely. I got back my original $68,000, and I cleared an extra $42,000 in profit. Sarah and Mark, they had 30 days to move. The new owners were not interested in tenants. I heard from my sister that they're renting a 2-bedroom apartment above a laundromat across town. Mark's high-end kitchen business dried up. Turns out, word gets around. People don't like hiring a contractor who defrauds his own father-in-law. Sarah, I don't know what happened to Sarah. She stopped calling everyone.
Today, I'm sitting on a different porch. It's the porch of the little bungalow, the one I was going to give to David. My old tenant retired and moved to Florida, so I moved in. It's small, just 2 bedrooms, with a little garden out back. It's all I need. David is here. He flew in for the weekend. We're painting the front door trim a bright, cheerful blue. You know, Pop, he says, wiping sweat from his forehead, you could have just kept their house. It was bigger. You earned it. Too many ghosts, I say, and too much carpet. He laughs. My phone buzzes on the small table. It's a text from an unknown number, but I know who it is. Are you happy now? You ruined us. I look at the message. I think about the man on the floor, leaning on his walker, crying in a hallway. I think about the door slamming. I think about the daughter who laughed at my pain. I delete the text. I block the number. Who is that, Pop? David asks. Just a wrong number, I say, picking up my paintbrush. The sun is warm on my face. My son is here, arguing with me about a patch I missed. My hand aches, just a little, but it's steady. I'm not a victim. I'm not a daughtery old man. I'm Harold Finch. I'm a man who keeps his records. I'm at peace. And for the first time in a long time, I feel like I'm finally home. If you enjoyed this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments below.